Welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you as always by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, it's been another week of very bad news. Not that I would know. Let me tell you that I have apps on my phone, Washington Post, The Economist. I get these things. They come to me in the mail. I haven't I haven't touched the app. I actually did once or twice, and I just regretted it. Um, and I have successfully gone through the week, really ignoring as 98% of like what would be called the bad news of the week. Um, but you and I know what the bad news is. As I've said a number of times before, we are in the midst of a mass extinction event, and we're watching uh, the ultimate suffering of living things on this planet as they crash, as species crash into extinction, as the planet hurtles towards divesting itself of life for the sixth time in the planet's history. Uh, and This time we are the cause, a tiny little species. Now, uh, it just, 98 or 99% of all the species that ever existed, this is something that was true forever. The 99% of all the species that ever existed on the planet are extinct. I mean, if these mass extinction events took out uh, some of them 60, 70% of the species, and some of them the 250 million years ago, the Great Dying that was more like 93% something. There's estimates of, but it was the largest mass extinction event in this planet's history. We are in the midst of a mass extinction event that is proceeding much, much faster than the 250 million year ago mass dying off at the end Permian. And it is clearly going to be more, there's going to be more species extinction. This is going to be the greatest mass extinction of all of the six mass extinctions that the planet has experienced to date. And so if you're alive now, and this is the Thanksgiving edition of the show, Thanksgiving. So what do we have to be thankful for? Well, I was realizing that if I had a choice, like I could have been born in the Talmudic era, for example. We're studying in the Talmud today's Talmud, Baba Basra 159, and there's a discussion of what happens if a father and a son have been kidnapped. And you don't know who died first, or one died, the other, died. We're talking about inheritance here. The whole section, chapters 8 and 9 of Baba Basra, are all about the issue. This is the This is the place in which the Talmud lays out the principles of the laws of inheritance. Um, and so uh, the Talmud was redacted in the fifth century. So, but this could apply to the sixth century, the seventh, the 10th, certainly the 14th. In 1492, when the Jews were expelled from Spain, there was this they were forced emigration. What you have today is many people forced to flee, from their homes. More than any time in human history, people have been driven from their homes because of fire or flood or violence. Um, and drought, just is incapable of sustaining. The land is no longer capable of sustaining life. But for Jews throughout our history, the issue of hostages, in Gaza today, Jews have been taken hostage throughout history, and Oh, and one of the reasons why Jews were always popular targets of hostage taking is because the Jewish community, one of the sacred values of the Jewish community was to redeem hostages. So even if you didn't know the people who had been taken hostage, a local community would be compelled to raise the funds in order to redeem their hostages. In the Talmud, the famous Shmuel, one of the great Amoraic sage from Nehardar in Babylonia, in Iraq, his two daughters were taken hostage, and one of them, Rachel, her captor um, uh, impregnated her uh, while she was a captive, and after he converted to Judaism and became a scholar with an unfortunate name of Isar, which means forbidden. And then so he uh, converted to Judaism. Uh, he obviously they loved each other. I mean, they had children, and the children became Talmudic scholars, quoted many times throughout the Talmud. And they are referred to as the son of Rachel, the daughter of Shmuel, rather than the son of Esau, which is normally what you do. But but first of all, it was not legitimate at the time. And second, it's a very unfortunate name. Hostage taking, hostages. Throughout Jewish history, we have had to deal with hostages. So the situation in Gaza is not particularly new to us. Um, the other thing, as long as I'm on this track, and I'm dispensed with. I try to make some notes, but it's at this point I have nothing to say anymore. Just so it's a stream of consciousness. You'll have to forgive me because my head is a shambles. But this being the war in Gaza is being fought in Milwaukee now. There was a Palestinian businessman who put up on his wall a picture of a Mogen David with a swastika, and apparently without commenting on a case here, my brother and his son, my brother and my nephew, have been indicted for felony destruction of property. The allegation is that these two hoodlums went and tore this mural down off the wall, and so there's now it's a big case, and if you want, you can just search for Mailer uh, Milwaukee. I imagine it'll come up. Um, so, so the Gaza war is being fought in Milwaukee because there's a Palestinian and they're the Jews, and now it's going into the courts. Um, the past is present, and there's absolutely no way to avoid our destiny. I'm wearing my Shabbos clothes, so I have my white shirt on and my black. Typically for Shabbos, I wear a white shirt, black pants. Big deal. You'll often see me with my wife. This is Sunday, at any rate, I was downstairs in the archive room, which I have broadcast from before, and we have a 40-gallon, 40-pound bag of flour that we wanted to dump into a large storage plastic storage bin. So we take it out of the paper and put it into a storage bin that's capable of keeping it fresh and safe, for an extended period of time. And I'm wearing my black Shabbos pants, and I'm realizing that's not ideal for this because as soon as you start opening the bag, this flour is everywhere. I mean, this is not going to be possible to do this without getting flour around. So I took my pants off and I put them. It's like I have a chair like this in the basement, so I put it on the back of the chair and I moved the chair behind me, so it would be safe. And then I'm over here and I'm pouring the flour in, and I get all the flour poured over. And then I needed to move it, so I reached behind me to move the chair so that I could move back. And lo and behold, my hands were covered with flour, and now I got it all over my pants. So and this reminded me of course, of Oedipus. Even though you know what your destiny is, you know you're not gonna. You're down there in your Shabbos pants. They're gonna get flour on them, no matter what you do. Oedipus knew, he had studied his history. He knew that he was cursed to kill his father and marry his mother, and he did everything he could to avoid that destiny. But you can't avoid your destiny. It just, that's the way destiny is. Speaking of which, by the way, here is the, I think I discussed this before. This is Robert Sapolsky, who, this is the book that I first read. He has a new one out, which I haven't read, called Determined, but his argument is very simple. We have no free will. There is no free will. Our fate, and I've been saying this, of course, Spinoza said it as well. Our fate is determined. He thinks it's determined on a very molecular level. I mean, it's from the time of our birth, who we are born, where we are born. I mean, this is me. Why am I a Jew? I chose to be a Jew. I didn't choose to be a Jew. My mother was a Jew. She gave birth to me, so I'm a Jew, and all I am doing is simply living comfortably, or as comfortably as I can, within my own skin. I can't live in anybody else's skin, so I accept my fate. I'm a Jew, and I'm ritually, religiously. The way I have always said it is, I'm attached. I'm attached to Israel. And you don't. There's no arguments about whether Zionism is good or bad, or whether it's a. I used to tell my students when I discussed Nazi ideology, and I would take the position of the Nazis, and I've done this many times in my life in teaching experiences. I remember I was in Chicago at a civil rights, training thing for it's young people. It's a young people, and they are all excited about, fighting for truth, justice, and righteousness and everything else. And they're going to learn about civil rights and racism and things, and so there's one session was with Dr. Mailer, this well-known civil rights advocate, and they, to talk about eugenics, and I had this, group of young people in front of me, and I launched into a defense of Philip Rushton's arguments. And I mean, I know his arguments backward and forward. I've critiqued them many times, but instead of critiquing them to those students, what I did was I just wholehearted defense of it, showing that in fact it was true, and a bunch of them walked out on me. They got very angry, and they went to the organizer of the conference and they said, "How could you bring this racist here to talk to?" And my point was, if you want to crusade for civil rights, you better be able to defend your position. So instead of running out offended and wanting to have me tossed out of the conference, how about confronting the ideas that you didn't like to hear, right? So anyway, I used to tell my students before I launched into a full-throated defense of Nazi ideology, Adolf Hitler Nazi ideology, was that, I'm a Jew, and you have to decide whether I'm a Jew pretending to be a Nazi or a Nazi pretending to be a Jew. I always left them with something to think about. So here we are, and the individual bits and pieces of the news. I have said once before, many times before, the last data from the United Nations is that there are 36 million children under the age of 5 who are suffering from acute malnutrition. And because this is not a fixed number, the point is that you take all of last week's bad news, and you add that on top of 36 million children. Now, many of those children have already died a horribly painful death of starvation. You're dying from starvation. It's a very unpleasant way to die. And there are 36 million of, not 36 million, some of them are already died, but more children are added. At any one moment is probably the total number is probably growing. So it's every week it's more than 36 million. It's not less than 36 million, but more than 36 million children are starving to death. And then last week there was something about Trump and Robert Kennedy, and who the hell cares? I mean, to these starving children, it doesn't make a whit of difference. They're going to be dead. Nobody cares about them. So, you know, uh, we are here uh, at Thanksgiving. So I was thinking that I am thankful. Uh, I could have been born in Talmudic times, but instead, I was born at the end of time, at a time when uh, huge swaths of human knowledge are available um, like this, just on a little machine like this. And everything that I'm interested in is right there. Uh, and you're getting to see the whole contours of this evolutionary cycle, this sixth extinction, everything up to this point. So yes, it's a horrible, terrible time to be witness to the end, but at the same time, it's an enormous privilege to be born. I was born in 1947. I was born right after World War II. It was just an amazing time, and I'm not. If I was 34, 44, 54, I mean, it would be a very different situation. But I'm not. I'm at the end. I was able to live my life under the illusion that there's a future, and everything I was doing had meaning, and I was trying to change the course of human history. I was trying to make things better. Um, but as Oedipus knew or found out in the end, you can't run away from your destiny. Uh, it is our destiny, but it's also a privilege to be alive at this moment and not to be one of the 36 million starving children. Uh, that can be a little bit difficult, but not for most people. Most people, it's all right. It doesn't bother most people that there's this enormous suffering everywhere around us, all the way to the horizon, and it is growing every single day. So the question is how to proceed and how to give thanksgiving, how to give thanks to the fact that I have leftovers. My son was here yesterday. We postponed our Thanksgiving dinner to Shabbos afternoon, and Isaac came up, and um, I'm just so happy that I have a child, a son in the world. Shout out to Isaac. He often watches, so thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Whenever he comes to visit, he fixes things that he can't fix. So anyway, I love him. You raise a boy up in order to schlep the things that you can't schlep, fix the things that you can't fix, and share the food that you can't eat it all anyway. So, with that, I wish you a happy post Thanksgiving. Enjoy your leftovers, and I'll see you next week with more bad news.